About my announcement from the members sitting opposite me.
That concludes oral questions. I call on Government Order of the Day number 1.
Christchurch Cathedral Reinstatement Bill, committee stage continued.
I declare the House in committee for further consideration of the Christchurch Cathedral Reinstatement Bill. Madam Chair.
Order. 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 The House is in committee for further consideration. Order. Order, members. The House is in committee for further consideration of the Christchurch Cathedral Reinstatement Bill. Members, when we were last considering the bill, we were debating parts 1 and 2, schedules 1 to 3 and clauses 1 and 2. The Honourable Dr Megan Woods had the call and she has 4 minutes 42 seconds remaining.
Thank you very much. And as we were interrupted last night, I was addressing the very sensible question that Dr Smith had put to the House and put to me as Minister and the Chair around the intentions in respect to the Building Act and exemptions that are provided for under this legislation. Well, as we know, the reinstatement of the cathedral is a complex engineering task and the design will be undertaken in stages over many years. At this stage, there's not enough information to assess the kind of Building Act exemptions that would be required. This will be a task for the joint venture that is between the Church Property Trust and the Independent Trust, which will manage the project. The joint venture will provide the necessary detail to the responsible minister to advise if any exemptions to the Building Act are required as engineering and design work become more developed. What I can confirm to that member at this stage is the Church Property Trustees have received advice that under the building code, the tower will require the addition of a lift and secondary stairwell, and that will increase the scale of the tower by 50% and have significant implications for the design of the whole base isolation system. Addressing this problem may require the use of an order in council provision seeking exemption from the Building Act. However, detailed information from the proponent, which will be required under Clause 8, Subclause 4, would be needed to justify and support such an order. Then the robust checks and balances of the legislation would come into play. For example, there would be the role of the Christchurch Reinstatement Review Panel to use their expert skills to analyse the order in council, the role of the Regulations Review Committee to also examine that order in council, and the Minister consulting the Minister responsible for the administration of the Building Act, subject to the order in council. And there would also, of course, be engagement with local authorities, other appropriate people and the general public. Related to that question, the Minister, the Honourable Nick Smith asked me whether or not there was a benchmark of new code or expectations for the new building standard that I would want the strengthened Christchurch Cathedral to have, and would I give an assurance that this wouldn't be standard less than the Building Act required. And I'd like to reassure that member that I appreciate the need for safety. I think as we're rebuilding a building in Christchurch, that has to be appreciated. And again, this will be a matter for the joint venture as it undertakes the detailed design and engineering work. But I would expect that the joint venture to recognise the importance of the Cathedral Working Group report, and that report recommended a solution that included seismic strengthening and base isolation that achieves an importance level 3, design 1 in accordance with the New Zealand Standard for Structural Design, 100% of the current building code for seismic performance, improved life safety and contents protection, minimal damage to the heritage features and fabric, and minimal visual impact and intrusion, and improved usability. So they're all good considerations to have, and I would expect that the Cathedral Working Group report will inform the joint venture's final design of the building. However, ultimately, that is a decision for the joint venture's decision to make. Thank you.
I call the Honourable Dr Nick Smith.
Madam Chair, I appreciate